Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive into the world of Bitcoin and crypto. It's February 6th, 2025, and things are getting pretty interesting.
Definitely interesting.
Bitcoin is on a tear,
Yeah,
the whole crypto market is buzzing, and we've got some seriously interesting developments brewing.
for sure.
Today we're working with a really cool mix of sources.
Yeah, what are we looking at?
So we've got a fresh episode of the Blockchain DXB podcast.
I love that show.
Yeah, they're always great for like market updates.
Yeah.
And we've also got some news articles about real estate and get this El Salvador that have really piqued my curiosity.
Oh, wow. El Salvador. Yeah, I'm really interested to hear about that.
So,
What's fascinating to me here is how Bitcoin is weaving its way into traditional finance and even global politics.
yeah,
It's not just about the price fluctuations anymore.
right.
This is getting serious.
Yeah. So, okay, first things first, Bitcoin's price.
Okay.
It's jumped up like a fraction of a percent in the last 24 hours.
Right.
Not a huge leap,
Yeah.
but a lot of folks are seeing this as a signal to buy.
That's right. And this little price pump is happening alongside a dip in stablecoin volume. So what that tells me is people are pulling their money out of fiat currency and diving headfirst into crypto.
That buy the dip mentality is stronger than ever in 2025.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But hold on a second. For those who might not be totally familiar with the stablecoins, can you break down what they are and why they matter in the crypto world?
Sure thing. So imagine a cryptocurrency that's like a digital version of the US dollar.
Okay.
That's a stablecoin. They're designed to stay at a fixed value, unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, which can be quite volatile.
Right.
This makes them really useful for trading and helps smooth out the bumps in the crypto market. So when we see that stablecoin volume is decreasing,
Yeah.
it often means people are moving their stablecoins into other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin.
Gotcha.
That's why this dip could be a sign that more people are betting on Bitcoin.
Interesting. And that's super interesting considering the total value of the crypto market, the market cap as they call it, is still sitting pretty at over $3 trillion.
It's a big market.
Huge. But hey, it's not all sunshine and roses in crypto land.
Oh, no, what happened?
Ripple, or XRP as it's known, seems to be having a rough go of it lately. What's the story there?
Yeah, Ripple has hit a snag. They experienced a pretty major network disruption that sent the price tumbling.
Oh, no.
We're talking about the XRP Ledger. Their blockchain actually stopping the production of blocks for 4 hours.
Whoa, 4 hours.
That
sounds like a pretty big deal. What exactly happened?
It's definitely a significant event, one that raises questions about the security and reliability of the XRP ledger.
Yeah.
For a blockchain to work properly, you need a network of validators, kind of like regional accountants who all agree on the legitimacy of transactions. This is what we call consensus.
Right.
When this consensus process gets messed up, it can cause some serious issues.
So did they lose any money during this outage?
Thankfully, it appears that Ripple managed to recover without any funds being lost. David Schwartz, Ripple's CTO, jumped on Twitter to reassure everyone. He explained that while the system for achieving consensus was still running, meaning validators were agreeing on the state of the ledger,
Okay.
they weren't actually publishing these validations.
Gotcha.
That's what caused the whole system to grind to a halt.
Interesting. From what I read, this might not be an isolated incident for Ripple. Apparently, they've been trying to make their system more decentralized, and it's caused a few technical hiccups along the way.
Right.
Makes you wonder, if they keep having these problems, will people lose confidence in XRP?
That's the million-dollar question. Some even argue that Ripple is more of a software company and that the XRP token itself isn't really essential for its operations. This incident definitely fuels that debate.
For sure. All right, let's move on to a player who needs no introduction. BlackRock.
Woo! BlackRock!
This investment behemoth is making some seriously interesting moves in the crypto space. Fill us in on what they're up to.
They're diving deeper into the European market with a brand new Bitcoin exchange traded product, or ETP. This comes hot on the heels of their successful Bitcoin ETF launch in the US.
So 2 big Bitcoin product launches in a row. It sounds like BlackRock is really putting their weight behind Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What does this tell us about where the whole crypto world is headed?
Well, it's definitely a powerful signal that mainstream finance is taking Bitcoin more and more seriously.
Right.
BlackRock is a huge player in traditional finance, and their involvement brings a certain legitimacy to the crypto world.
Totally. But what's the difference between an ETF and an ETP? Are they basically the same thing?
They're both designed to track the price of an asset, in this case Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But they have some key differences in terms of their structure and how they're regulated.
Gotcha.
To be honest, the specific details of BlackRock's European ETP are still a bit of a mystery.
Okay.
However, it's definitely a development worth watching closely.
For sure. If anyone wants to stay ahead of the curve on Bitcoin ETFs and the like, I highly recommend following Eric Belchunas on Twitter.
Oh yeah, he's a good follow.
He's a great resource for all things finance.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about a concept that's been generating a ton of buzz lately, especially in the real estate world. Tokenization.
Tokenization.
It sounds futuristic, but what does it actually mean?
It's actually a pretty straightforward concept. Tokenization is basically taking a real-world asset, like a piece of property, and turning it into a digital token on a blockchain.
Okay, so one of our sources highlighted a company called Blocksquare that's doing some really innovative things with this.
Oh, cool. I've heard of them.
They've just launched a new EU-compliant real estate tokenization framework.
Interesting.
I get this. They're integrating it with land registries to ensure everything's legally sound.
That's huge. This kind of framework could be a game changer for real estate investment.
Yeah.
By connecting blockchain technology with official land records, they're adding a whole new layer of transparency and security to the process.
And what's really cool is that token holders have a direct legal claim backed by the actual value of the real estate. Plus, the whole process is streamlined thanks to European regulations, making it much easier for everyday investors to get in on the action.
And this is just the beginning. Some experts are predicting that the real-world asset tokenization market could be worth a mind-blowing $30 trillion by 2030.
Whoa. Okay, so we've covered Bitcoin's price action, Ripple's network woes, BlackRock's bold move into Europe, and the rise of real estate tokenization.
A lot going on.
Now for something that seems completely out of left field.
What's that?
El Salvador.
Ah, yes, El Salvador. They made history by becoming the first country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. However, they've been facing pressure from the IMF to scale back their Bitcoin ambitions.
Right.
But despite all that, they've just made a move that surprised a lot of people.
Wait, they bought more Bitcoin?
You got it?
I thought the IMF was trying to get them to cool it on the crypto front.
You're right, but it seems El Salvador is playing by their own rules. They just added another 12 Bitcoins to their reserves, bringing their total holdings to a cool 6,688 Bitcoins.
That's a pretty bold statement. I mean, they're basically doubling down on Bitcoin, even with the IMF breathing down their necks.
For sure.
It makes you wonder, are other countries going to follow their lead? What does this mean for the future of Bitcoin on the global stage?
That's the question everyone's asking, and I don't think we have a clear answer yet.
Right.
What's clear is that El Salvador is betting big on Bitcoin, and they're not backing down even with pushback from global institutions.
It definitely feels like we're witnessing a seismic shift in the financial landscape. But you know what? I think it's time to step back and take a breath. We've thrown a lot of information your way, and we need a moment to process it all. We'll be right back after a short break to dig deeper into these trends and what they mean for you. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it.
So before the break, we were talking about El Salvador's surprising move to buy more Bitcoin, despite all that pressure from the IMF.
Right.
It really got me thinking, are we seeing like a shift in power here? With smaller nations kind of challenging the established financial order?
It's an intriguing question. You know what's interesting to me is how all these stories we've been discussing connect.
Yeah, how so?
We have BlackRock, this giant of the traditional financial world, diving headfirst into the European Bitcoin market.
Right.
We've got this groundbreaking framework for tokenizing real estate, which is blurring the lines between blockchain and mainstream finance. And then there's El Salvador, a nation boldly staking its claim in the Bitcoin arena, even with opposition from international institutions.
I see what you mean. It's like these seemingly separate events are all part of a bigger story.
Exactly. It seems like Bitcoin and the whole crypto ecosystem are becoming too big to ignore.
Yeah.
We're seeing a push and pull between the old guard of finance and this new decentralized world.
Speaking of push and pull, our friends over at the Blockchain DXB podcast had some interesting thoughts on all of this.
Oh, yeah. What they have to say.
Their host, Josh, seemed pretty enthusiastic about Bitcoin's price performance and the growing adoption. But he also expressed some skepticism about things like ETFs and tokenization.
Yeah, I can see why.
Arguing that they could actually undermine Bitcoin's core principles.
Interesting. So what were his main concerns?
He seemed particularly concerned about the influence of institutional players like BlackRock.
Makes sense. I mean, isn't the whole point of Bitcoin to be decentralized?
Exactly. Decentralization is a cornerstone of Bitcoin's philosophy. The idea is to create a financial system that's not controlled by any single entity.
Right, like a government or a corporation.
Right. So when you have these massive institutions coming in and potentially wielding a lot of power, it does raise some questions about the future of that decentralization.
For sure. It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Josh also brought up a really interesting point about regulation.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He seems to think that trying to make Bitcoin comply with traditional financial regulations could be tricky, even a little paradoxical.
I think he's getting at the inherent tension between the decentralized nature of Bitcoin and the desire for regulatory oversight.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act.
It is. On one hand, regulation can bring stability and protect investors, which is important for wider adoption.
For sure.
But on the other hand, too much regulation could stifle innovation and go against the very spirit of decentralization.
Totally. So where do you strike that balance?
Right. It's a question that policymakers all over the world are grappling with.
It's definitely a complex issue with no easy answers. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out in the coming years.
Yeah.
I think the key is to find a way to foster innovation while also ensuring that the system is fair, transparent, and protects investors.
You know, this whole conversation reminds me of something Josh said on his podcast.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
He was talking about the importance of being critical of the information we consume, especially when it comes to something as complex and rapidly evolving as crypto.
I completely agree. We're bombarded with information from all sides, and it's easy to get caught up in the hype or the fear.
Right.
It's crucial to take a step back, evaluate our sources, and form our own informed opinions.
He even went so far as to say that sometimes we need to look beyond the mainstream media to get the full picture.
He's right about that. The media landscape is incredibly fragmented, and every outlet has its own biases and agendas.
Yeah.
To truly understand what's going on, you need to expose yourself to a wide range of perspectives.
For sure.
Read articles from different publications, listen to podcasts with diverse viewpoints, and don't be afraid to engage in healthy debate with people who hold different opinions than you.
It's all about keeping an open mind and being willing to challenge our own assumptions.
Exactly. It's a great reminder that critical thinking is more important than ever in this age of information overload.
So we've talked about the convergence of traditional finance and crypto, the challenges of regulation, the importance of critical thinking, and the potential for smaller nations to disrupt the global financial order. What are your key takeaways for our listener today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the world of crypto is in constant flux. It's a dynamic space where technology, finance, and geopolitics are colliding in ways we couldn't have imagined just a few years ago.
What are some of the big questions our listeners should be asking themselves as they navigate this new landscape?
I think it's crucial to consider the long-term implications of these trends. For instance, how will the growing influence of institutional investors like BlackRock affect the price of Bitcoin and its accessibility to everyday people? Will tokenization truly democratize investment opportunities, or will it create new forms of inequality?
Right.
And how will governments around the world respond to the rise of cryptocurrencies?
Wow, those are some big thought-provoking questions. Where can our listeners go to learn more and continue exploring these topics?
Well, besides following Eric Belshunez and the Bitcoin office on Twitter,
Of course.
there are a ton of great resources out there. You can find in-depth articles and research reports from industry publications. And there are some fantastic online communities where you can connect with other crypto enthusiasts and learn from their experiences.
And don't underestimate the power of conversation. Yeah.
Talking to people who are knowledgeable about crypto can really help solidify your understanding and help you develop your own informed perspective.
Absolutely. Engaging in thoughtful dialogue is essential for navigating this complex and ever-changing world.
So there you have it, folks. We've delved deep into the world of Bitcoin and crypto, explored some fascinating trends, and unpacked some of the big questions facing this evolving space. But we're not done yet. We've got one more segment coming up where we'll leave you with a final thought-provoking question to ponder as you continue your own exploration of the crypto world. Stay tuned. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Bitcoin and crypto. Before the break, we were discussing some pretty big questions about the future of this space, like the role of big institutions, the impact of regulation, and the potential for disruption on a global scale.
It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And if you recall, we left our listeners with a particularly thought-provoking question to chew on.
Right, what was it again? We were talking about the increasing involvement of institutional players like BlackRock's foray into the European market. Is this influx of traditional finance really a sign of decentralization? Or are we just witnessing a new kind of centralization taking shape?
It's a question that goes to the very heart of Bitcoin's original vision.
Yeah.
Was it meant to be a radical alternative to the established financial system, or was it destined to become integrated into it?
And our friends over at the Blockchain DXB podcast had some really interesting perspectives on this. Their host, Josh, seemed to be wrestling with this tension himself. On one hand, he's clearly excited about Bitcoin's price performance and the growing mainstream adoption.
Yeah, makes sense.
But on the other hand, he's wary of things like ETFs and tokenization. He worries that they could compromise Bitcoin's core principles, especially decentralization.
Right, I can see that.
He seemed particularly concerned about the potential for a handful of large institutions to end up controlling a significant chunk of the Bitcoin supply.
Yeah.
If that happens, how decentralized would Bitcoin really be?
That's the crux of the issue, isn't it? If the power dynamics simply shift from traditional financial institutions to a new set of powerful players within the crypto space,
Right.
have we really achieved anything revolutionary?
It's a classic dilemma. How do you balance the benefits of mainstream adoption, things like increased liquidity and stability, with the potential risks of centralization and control? There's no easy answer.
There isn't. And it's a conversation that needs to happen more openly and honestly within the crypto community.
Yeah.
We need to be asking ourselves tough questions about the future we're building. What kind of financial system do we want? Who should have power and control?
I think it's also important to remember that Bitcoin and the broader crypto space are still relatively young.
Yeah,
We're in uncharted territory, and there are bound to be unexpected twists and turns along the way.
absolutely. We're witnessing an incredible experiment unfold in real time. And it's a reminder that the future is not predetermined. It's something we're actively shaping through our choices and actions.
So what can our listeners do to stay informed and engaged as this experiment unfolds?
Well, as we discussed earlier, it's crucial to be a discerning consumer of information.
Right.
Don't just accept everything you read or hear at face value. Question your sources, look for evidence, and be willing to challenge your own assumptions.
And don't be afraid to diversify your information diet.
Exactly.
Read articles from a variety of publications, listen to podcasts with different perspectives, and engage in thoughtful discussions with people who hold different views.
The more perspectives you expose yourself to, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this complex and evolving landscape.
So there you have it, folks. We've taken a deep dive into the world of Bitcoin and crypto. We've explored the latest market trends, unpacked the complexities of regulation, and grappled with some of the big philosophical questions that this technology raises.
It's been a fascinating journey, and we hope it sparked your curiosity to learn more and continue exploring this dynamic and ever-changing space.
Remember, the future of finance and perhaps even the world is being written right now. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay curious.